I've seen it too many times where business leaders think in very black and white terms, very cause and effect. If I do X, I will get Y results. The problem with this thinking is that very little happens in a bubble or in a vacuum, that you may think that you have got this brilliant business idea, but because of all these other factors that you didn't consider, that brilliant idea may not be so brilliant. Take this past year, for example. So, a year and a half ago, you may have had this really great business idea. Then suddenly there's COVID, and that great business idea, now what? Now, I'm not talking about plan Bs. And there are people who don't believe in having a plan B, that just by creating a plan B, you've now allowed things to fail. You've created a backup plan with the intention of using that backup plan. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is asking what if, asking those what if questions every step of the way. Now, I worked for years in the travel industry where the things that you think are the least likely to go wrong, those are the things that usually go wrong. So part of this is experience, but I don't believe that you need experience in order to think about the what ifs. Before the travel industry, I worked in the arts. I was a professional ballet dancer, and I also worked backstage as a production manager and a stage manager. And you know the saying, the show must go on, and it does, and it will somehow. But you have to keep thinking about the what ifs. When you're on stage and there's a problem, you figure it out. You figure it out as the problem is developing. You come up with a solution. So these business leaders that freak out about, well, how do we make changes while still flying the plane? Pilots do it, performers do it, everyone does it. We all have to make changes while flying the plane, regardless of what it is that we do. And the way to do that successfully is to be prepared, is to keep asking yourself the what if questions. What if something were to go wrong here? What would you do? And again, this isn't necessarily about backup plans or plan Bs. It's being prepared, at least mentally, for what could potentially or possibly go wrong. Let's say you're performing on stage and you're waiting for someone to make an entrance. They don't show up. So in your mind, you're thinking, well, what do I do? Do I have time to move around? Do I wave my arms? Do I add a little acting bit? What do I do? Now, the first time this happens, you may not be fully prepared. But once this happens to you once, then the next time that you're on stage and you're waiting for someone to make an entrance, your mind will already be thinking about the what ifs. If they miss their entrance, what do I do? The same thing happens in business. But I don't think you need to have the experience or have a negative experience to be prepared for the next negative experience. I think you can be prepared without that. So thinking ahead, thinking about, hey, I'm going to be on stage and waiting for this person to make an entrance. What if they were late? What would I do? Think about that before the performance. You can apply the same concept to business. Think about what could go wrong in this situation. How can I prepare for that? And then prepare for it. This isn't about negative thinking or willing something bad to happen. This is about being prepared. Don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on all the potentially bad things that could happen, but be prepared for them just in case they do. With COVID, no one really prepared for COVID. No one really saw that coming. Well, maybe a few people, but the vast majority of us did not see this coming, or not to this extent anyway. But the businesses that have been most successful were the ones that were prepared to deal with crisis, to deal with change. They were ready to go the minute the world changed. And this is how businesses need to operate even in non-COVID times. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. There's nothing wrong with asking yourself the what if questions. In fact, if you do, it may mean staying in business.